again, and welcome to the lab number 1 demonstration video. Here I will introduce you to the basic features of Mathematica you need to use to complete lab number 1. So starting here at the top of this document, you can see I have asked you to please remember to format your lab properly. The directions are in the lab instructions, the PDF file that I've provided you, but you can also see that in this notebook I have used the proper format as well. What this video will cover is how to type in calculations using the basic keyboard commands, also what numerical values mean, how to type in calculations using the basic math assistant, how to store functions and evaluate functions, and how to clear stored functions. Now, please also pay attention to the note. The calculations that we perform in this video are only examples. So you can open up Mathematica and play along with me, or you can just watch. You don't actually have to make up a notebook of what I demonstrate or submit that. What you're going to be submitting for this assignment is your completed lab number 1, where you answer all 5 questions that are in the PDF of instructions. So I'm going to go down here to the section I've created for basic keyboard commands and numerical values. So here, all I need to show you is how you go about typing in basic math calculations. For instance, if I want to do, let's say 6 plus 5, and then I want to multiply. The symbol for multiplication that Mathematica uses is either the asterisk, which is the shift, and then 8. And so then we could put in like a 3. I'm going to hit Shift Enter, and you'll see that that gives us an output of 21. Also, you can use a space. So I can type in 6 plus 5 space 3. You can kind of see a faint little X there. And again, if I hit Shift Enter, I come up with 21. You can also use parentheses as we do with multiplication as well. So the basic operations are what you would expect: addition, subtraction, multiplication. The division key is going to be the /, which is on the lower right corner of your keyboard. So I can put in the fraction 7/5 by typing 7 divided by 5, Shift Enter, and there's my output. Now here's a good opportunity for us to talk about numerical value. The default setting in Mathematica is to always give things as exact values. That would mean fractions. That would mean simplifying square roots rather than giving you a decimal equivalent. On those occasions, though, where you want to see your output as a numerical value, you'll notice my suggestion bar has come up here. Now it should come up automatically for you. I'm going to X mine out. You can see I can minimize over here. If you ever do that on accident, please notice you've got this little double down arrow that says Show Suggestions Bar. So if I do that, it's going to pop back up. So you can see the very first choice here is for numerical value. When you click on the down arrow, it allows you to set the precision. Usually we don't bother with that. All you would do is press numerical value. It's going to put in a new command. The capital N is the command for numerical value. It takes your last output and it tells you what that output is as a decimal. Okay, so that's one way to use the suggestion bars as a shortcut. You could also just type in the command capital N with a 7/5 yourself if you wanted to. Next up, exponents. I think we covered this in the last video, but again, if I have a base of 4 and I want to put an exponent on it, you use the caret, which appears on the 6 key. So you press Shift 6, you put on what exponent you want, like maybe 10, let's be crazy, Shift Enter, and there you go, that's your answer there. A last couple of things I want to show you is how you would do the square root command. Again, some people prefer to do everything on the keyboard. Other people prefer to use the palette. So you're going to be working through both in this lab. Any built-in function of Mathematica, you always use a capital letter for that function. So square root, the shorthand function for it is SQRT, which looks like squirt. You can see you'll get a box here suggesting other related commands. In this case, you can just ignore that. The Built-in Mathematica functions always take these square brackets, like you can see back up in the numerical example. So you're going to enter a square bracket, and then you put in the number you would like the square root of. So if we put in 36, always remember to close your bracket, Shift Enter, gives us an output of 6. If you type in something that does not have a nice square root, like if we make it 37, it will just give it back as an output like this. If it is a square root that can be simplified, for instance, let's say the square root of 300, you'll see that it will give the simplified form. Now again, if you actually do want the decimal, the easiest thing to do is just then hit that numerical value command, and you can see that we're all set there. As far as the symbol for pi goes, if you like keyboard commands, pi is just capital P-I. Again, it's capitalized because it's a built-in function of Mathematica. If I hit Shift Enter on that, you can see it gives me the output as a cute little symbol. So if you want to type in like pi over 4, for example, it would be capital P-I, division symbol 4, Shift Enter, and it outputs a little prettier for you. And then the last thing I guess I would want to cover here is the trig functions. Again, because trig functions are functions and they happen to be built into Mathematica, you use the 3-letter name abbreviations that are standard for these functions, and you capitalize. So for instance, if I want the cosine of pi, I'm just going to type in COS. I'm going to hit my square bracket, always use square bracket, capital P-I on the inside, square bracket close, Shift Enter, turns out to be -1. So that should about cover it for this first section, the basic keyboard commands. Now let's move on to the basic math assistant. Now you can see my basic math assistant I've already brought up here, but remember, the place you find the basic math assistant is in the palettes up at the top menu bar. You go to basic math assistant and it will bring it over here. And again, you can move it. The basic math assistant is pretty easy to use. You just go looking for what it is you're trying to type in. So first, let me introduce you to the fraction button. You can see I'm hovering right here. If you hover, you'll notice it tells me this is for inputting fractions. It also does show you a keyboard command shortcut to get that fraction. And when you use the basic math assistant, your calculations will be properly formatted in terms of being what you're used to writing on paper. So if I choose that, you're going to notice that my top box, the numerator, is highlighted in blue. So whatever I type right now is going to go there. And then I need to get to the bottom box. You can just hit the down arrow, or you can also click in that box. You put whatever you want to put as your denominator. Shift Enter. Notice it just left it the same because there was nothing to do to simplify. I can spit out the numerical value, or I could try typing in a fraction that does reduce, such as -4/8. Again, it will automatically reduce for you. Kind of nice. Another important one, you can see we've got the square root symbol here over in the basic math assistant. Easy usage and properly formatted. You can see that we do have pi here, so typing a pi if you want it to be cute, that's how you do that. We also have E, which is the mathematical constant that you should be familiar with. Okay, you'll notice it comes up kind of bold like that, and that's just to make you aware of the fact that you are typing in the number E, which has this numerical value. You have the pre-formatted exponent, so you can again just type into the little boxes, get your exponential expression evaluated. And then the other major thing you need at this point in the course is you'll notice the trig functions are down here in the basic commands. So I can, show or hide this menu. So if yours is hidden, that's how you go about fixing that. And here again, we've got the square root. Also, I should have mentioned next to that, you've got like if you want to do a cube root. So you would start with the number underneath the radical, and then you would put a number on the outside. Notice in this case, it changes it to the equivalent fractional exponent. In calculus, we generally prefer the fractional exponents. Getting back to what I started to say though, you've got your trig functions sitting right here. You've got your sine, your cosine, your tangent, and so forth. Again, they're already preset for you. So if you want to go go that route, you can. You're welcome to, go diving into the rest of what is available here in the basic Math Assistant. There is also an advanced tab, which we will be using later on in the course, so you can toggle from basic to advanced. And we are ready then to move on to storing and evaluating functions. In the PDF of instructions, you will see a syntax box that will explain what I'm about to show you here, which is when you want to store a function. Okay, and we'll start with just a basic f of x. I'm going to quickly change my style just to text. So what we would normally have written on paper might look something like this, right? All right. If I actually want to store that in Mathematica, which is very, very handy to be able to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lowercase f. Now, because this is not a pre-programmed function, it's a function I am going to define. I use a lowercase letter. It's going to still be a square bracket, however. You put whatever variable you want to use, and after that letter, you have to type an underscore. So the underscore you're going to get by holding down the shift key and hitting your subtraction key. So it should look like that. You have to remember to put that underscore there. This is where we get into the tricky little bits of syntax in Mathematica. I'm going to close up my square bracket. You don't actually use the equal sign here. You do a colon first, then the equal sign. That's to indicate that we are defining the function. And then I would type in the 5x plus 3. You will do a shift enter on that, and nothing will happen. But it is now stored. And what that lets me do is I can now call that function up and use any input I want to. So if I want to know what f of 4 is, I literally just type in f of 4, square brackets, shift enter. If I want to know what f of the square root of 17 is, and you can see it gave me the answer. Now, here's the first time this has come up. Mathematica will, in certain situations, kind of give you the output in a reverse format, and I'll show you how to take care of that later. Now I can use that function as many times as I want to. It is stored until I get rid of it. Just to emphasize, you are not limited in terms of what letters you use. So if you want p of t, if this is like the position of an object, I can, oops, I forgot to put my underscore. I can define a function. So I would use something like 16t squared. I can store that. I can find out what's the position at 4 seconds. The only thing is, as far as good habits go, once you define that function, that definition stays. So at a certain point, because very often we do just use basic f of x, you might use that multiple times in one lab, you need to make sure that you actually wipe that function out of Mathematica before you go and do something else. So generally speaking, it's just a good habit. Once you've decided I've done everything I need to do with that particular function f, you would use the clear command. Now, again, this is pre-built in Mathematica, so capital, clear, square bracket, and you put in the name of the function or functions you want to clear. And you won't see anything dramatic happen, but notice what happens now if I try to recall f. If I say, oh, wait, I really needed to know what f of 1 was. It's going to output just f of 1 because it no longer has that function defined. That's going to be the end of this video. That should be enough of an introduction for you to go ahead and attempt lab number 1. There's 5 questions there. And remember, when you are finished, you're going to save it, last name and lab number, and upload it into Blackboard. Please do remember to save periodically as you're completing an assignment. There is no autosave feature, and again, you don't want to lose